Hello, my name is Sandra. I'm the education specialist for Rumpke's East area. And today we're going to be talking about recycling and also too a little bit about who Rumpke is. I've been with Rumpke for about 3 years now, and here in a few months, we are going to be opening one of the largest recycling facilities in North America. So definitely watch out for Rumpke because some big news is going to be coming just to here in the summer. So we're all excited about it. So first, I just want to talk about Rumpke. Rumpke is actually a family-owned and operated company. It began in 1932. Our founder, William Rumpke, he actually owned a coal delivery service. And in the Great Depression, people didn't have a lot of cash or money to pay for services. So Mr. Rumpke would often get paid with things from people's houses, like, baked goods, or even sometimes he would get livestock. And actually, one of the trades was 6 hogs he got for his coal delivery service. He decided to start a hog farm with those pigs, and in order to feed them, he asked a couple of his relatives to start collecting garbage from nearby restaurants. The hogs would be fed the food scraps from the restaurant. That operation of the feeding the pigs with the scraps they pick up from local businesses continued until about the 1950s, when they had to stop feeding the pigs the garbage because of a law that was passed. This change in the law would have made the pig farm too expensive to keep up. So they actually did away with the pigs and they decided to go with garbage instead. And that's where we are today. So Rumpke actually purchased their first recycling facility in 1989. It's actually the one in Circleville, and it is still there today. The Rumpke operation here in Columbus began in 1992, so we've been here over 30 years. And today we have 15 recycling facilities, including a glass processing plant in Dayton. We are one of the only landfill operators that owns their own glass processing plant. So Rumpke is very proud of that glass processing plant. And it really is an interesting facility to visit. Annually, Rumpke recycles about or more than about 1 billion pounds of material. So a lot of stuff is coming through our company. So how it works with Rumpke. We have a system that's called single stream. And what that means for everybody at home is that when you put it into your cart or your bin, your recycling bin, we want you to put it in loose and we want you to mix it all together. So don't put it in a bag, don't put it in a box, and you don't have to worry about like dividing it up. So all together. Don't bag it, don't stack it. This actually makes it a lot easier. That way you don't have to worry about it at all. You just know what's a yes, what's a no, and you put it in. Nice and convenient. So this system of putting it all mixed together is different than what we have had earlier. There was a just like the name MURF. But there at the MURF, we use advanced machines, technology, infrared lights, magnets, and conveyor systems to sort everything by type. And once the machines have done their job and everything is sorted out and separated, we then package it into bales. And that's what the bales look like on screen here. The bales are how we then sell them to our customers, who we call end users. Now, these bales are really interesting. They can weigh anywhere up to 800 pounds to 2,000 pounds, depending on what they consist of. But our end users, what is an end user? It's important to note that Rumpke is a recycling processor, not an end user. This means that Rumpke collects and sorts recyclable material, but the material is ultimately shipped to an end user. So we're not the people actually turning things into new things. Those are what our end users are for. The end users, there's a couple of examples there on the bottom. Those are some of our notable ones. We do have more. Just to kind of point a couple of them out, ADS, Advanced Drainage Systems, they're actually here in town in Columbus. Now, Pratt Paper, they're one of our oldest customers, and they're in Wapakoneta, Ohio. The majority of our end users are in the Midwest, and with the exception of one being our aluminum. This slide is showing on the left what you would put in your cart, and then on the right is what everything you put in your cart is going to get turned into. I'm not going to go through every single one just for time. I just kind of want to point out two of them. So the aluminum cans, the time it takes from being in your recycling tote at the curb to being a new can, brand new can, that only takes 60 days. So it's fairly fast for that material to actually come back and be used by consumers again. Now, that sounds really fast, but it's actually not the quickest turnaround. Quickest turnaround is actually cardboard. Cardboard only takes about a week. So you could order something from Amazon, put your box in the recycling, and then you could get your box back in about a week. That is pretty amazing. That all of our stuff is staying right here and we are using it in real time. So definitely helpful to recycle. Now, what else is helpful for recycling is probably the biggest reason is that it reduces our trash. So landfills today, if anybody has never been to a landfill to visit for a tour, I highly, highly, highly recommend going and visiting. The reason why is because seeing is believing, and landfills are so much bigger than we can even think of without seeing it. It's like as big as an ocean. That's how big it is. And to think when you go to visit, you look at all the stuff, the vast majority of things, and half of it is recycled material that got wasted. It's not being captured because either people didn't want to participate or they don't have access to it. And that's a whole bunch of useful things that they're not being used. So it truly is a waste. So when we recycle, we can take out almost half of what's going basically being buried in the dirt. So that's pretty amazing that we have that capability. Now, when we are saving the landfill space, it allows us to use that landfill a lot longer, which means that we can continue to use that resource. Landfills actually are kind of going away eventually. In a few decades, we're going to have a lot less of them. There's only so much space within them, and it is extremely hard to build a new one because nobody wants to have a landfill in their backyard. So anybody who's going to build one, they're probably going to get chased out of town. So that's not happening. So what we have right now for landfills, that's what we have. But also too, like I said, that stuff that we're saving that has a use and it has value, we're actually going to continue to use that. So our limited resources that we have on the earth are being used wisely. Now, these are some good facts to kind of point out that ways that recycling saves in other ways. So recycling one aluminum can saves enough energy to run a computer for 3 hours or a TV for 2 hours. That's just one can, saves that much energy. Then recycling recycled paper or using recycled paper fiber to make 1 ton of paper saves the equivalent of 17 mature trees. I'm not talking like the little ones, like in a brand new neighborhood, mature trees, so like big trees, 17 of them. That's a lot of paper. The recycling steel cans saves between 60 to 74% of the energy used to produce them for raw materials. So when we're using already processed steel into products, we're not having to mine the raw ore. We're not having to process that ore. We don't have to ship it halfway across the world. So we're saving a lot of steps and a lot of energy by using what we already have right here. Now, what makes something recyclable with Rumpke? So, in order for Rumpke to add something to the acceptable items list, we consider two things. The first thing is, can the material move safely through the MURF or the recycling facility? And then the second one, do we have an end user for that material? I'm going to kind of give you an example of for the first one. So one item that is on the no list is lithium ion batteries. That might not be the first time you hear me say lithium ion batteries. The reason why lithium ion batteries are on the no list is because when they are punctured or crushed, they go in the thermal overload, and it's a fire that's so hot it cannot be put out with a fire extinguisher. Now, why is that such a problem? These batteries are in everything. Anything electronic or anything that's wireless that recharges has a lithium ion battery in it. And Rumpke has seen a lot of battery fires because of that. We have very well trained employees. They have never worked as a firefighter a day in their life, but because of the practice, they are expert firefighters. And we've installed specialized systems in our building to make sure we keep everybody safe because they are such an issue. So safety, that's pretty easy for people to understand. So if it's like the battery catches on fire, or maybe it will, like syringes, needles, and stuff like that, that could hurt somebody. So stuff like that, if it's not safe, we're not going to put it in. The second one here, do we have an end user for that material? Now that one, if you're not in the waste industry like myself, that might not be apparent at first, but so what is recycling? What does that mean? We have something we've already used, so basically something that was destined for the trash, and instead returning it into something new. And so that's the thing. In order for us to actually recycle it, it needs to be something new. And remember, Rumpke only collects and we sort. And we need our end users at the end there for it to complete its journey. And so that's why we have to have an end user before we can say, yes, absolutely, let's take that. We want all the stuff we can get. So if we can't answer yes to both of the questions, then you will not find the item recycled with Rumpke. Now, let's look at the stuff that did answer yes to those two questions. So we have 5 different categories of acceptable items. We have paper, plastics, metal cans and cups, glass bottles and jars, and cartons. First up, we have our plastic bottles, and these are bottles, jugs, tubs, and cups. We like to tell people shapes at Rumpke. The numbers on the bottoms usually, and they have like the little triangle around it. We find that to be a little misleading. I actually think it's more confusing to use that method of identifying. So instead of looking at the number or in the triangle, if it is plastic and it's a bottle, jug, tub, or cup, then it can be recycled. Now, for all of our materials, we want to make sure it's as empty as possible and fairly clean. Now, what's fairly? That seems pretty vague, right? So fairly, I'm saying that on purpose because I leave that up to you. If you would like to maybe just give it a little bit of a shake, a little bit of a wipe out, that's fine. As long as you're recycling, you get a gold star, A plus. If you want to put it in your dishwasher, again, gold star, A plus. I really just want people to try. So if you're recycling, you're doing your part. So please just try to do it. On these pictures here, you notice that the lids are on all the containers as well. That is on purpose. So the caps for plastics, we want you to put them back on. So if it is a plastic bottle, you want to make sure that that's on there. Now, why is that so important? It's especially important for the little lids, like on the cola and the milk. Anything that goes through the recycling facility, anything that's smaller than your fist, actually won't go where it needs to. It's too little. It falls through the machines. And it actually contaminates our glass. So if it's smaller than your fist, it's not really good to put that in your recycling. So that's why we have you put it on your container instead, because that way it stays with the container and then it goes to the end user and it actually gets recycled. So make sure to put those on there. Next, we have our metal cans and we have aluminum, steel. We do accept aerosols. A lot of people don't realize that. The aerosols, we just ask that nothing is hazardous. Now, what is hazardous? Because that can mean a lot of things. So my rule is if you do not want it on your skin, don't put it in. So if it's something that would hurt you, we also have people putting their hands on in the stuff and they don't want it on their hands either. So don't put that in there because it might hurt somebody else. The Now the hairspray there, that's a good example. There's also like deodorant or maybe Pam spray or your nonstick spray. And on that little picture of the hairspray, it's actually missing its little nozzle. It looks like somebody popped that little thing off. We want you to do that as well if you could. Take off as much plastic as you can. Now, that might contradict what I just said on the previous slide because you were like, Sandra, you said we want you to put this stuff on it. The cap on the container. Well, so there's actually a rule that will help you remember what to leave the cap on and what not to. So and I call it the match rule. So if you have like a plastic water bottle, the bottom is plastic and the top is plastic. So they stay together, right? So they're married, they stay together. But like, let's say this hairspray, that cap the top is plastic, but the bottom is metal. They don't match, so they don't go together. That's how you know what stays and what goes. Getting back to the metal containers here, we also have our cola can. That's okay if they have like the plastic label on the outside. The end user does not mind that those are on there, so that's okay. I would say the biggest issue we receive with cans is that people want to put stuff inside of it, either little plastic bits or bits of metal they think are also aluminum, but that actually will contaminate the product. So try not to throw anything inside your cola can. The soup cans, you don't have to worry about taking off the label. Go ahead and leave that on there. The steel mill basically just burns them off, so that makes that easy. I would though, for the soup, or if you're like me and you have animals at home, if you have pet food especially, or maybe even like tuna fish, those cans do tend to be just a little bit more fragrant than the other ones. So just so on a hot day, all of our Rumpke people, they don't have to be in a smelly environment, that would help us out. If you give those a little extra rinse, we appreciate it. But honestly, it's not that big of a deal. The aluminum cup here on the left, that is a newer product. And actually, if there are any Columbus locals, then they've been to maybe Brewdog Brewery. They serve these cups there. And you can actually buy them for your home, just like you would like a solo cup. And they are a teensy bit more expensive, but they are durable enough to where you could actually hand wash them and use them a couple of times. So they are definitely, you'll get your money's worth with them if you take that extra step. And then they're also recyclable, which actually solo cups are not. So let's go on to the next item, we have our glass bottles and jars. Like I was saying earlier, Rumpke has their own glass processing plant in Dayton. We're very proud of our glass processing plant. The reason why is because not a lot of recyclers bother with glass. It is a very heavy material to haul, and it is very dirty. So it's very expensive to process glass. But Rumpke wants to do the right thing, and it's very important to recycle this material because it is one of the few that is infinitely recyclable. So what does that mean? That means I can break down these bottles like you see here and melt them down, turn them into a new bottle, and then keep doing that exact same thing of breaking it down, turning it into new forever. It will never go bad. So that's why it's a very sustainable product, and that's very important to us. So the glass bottles and jars here, we take all colors of glass. I think the only one missing from this picture is amber. And you notice, just like I said with the match rule, these lids on these pictures, they're not on there, and that's on purpose because those lids wouldn't match. Think of like the pickle or the jelly, or maybe even like spaghetti or Alfredo. Those will have metal lids, so they don't match the bottom. And now the metal lids, they are a little bigger, right? They're bigger than your fist, especially like the pickle jar. That is okay to put the lid in the recycling as well, just not on your containers. You can recycle them both. The sparkling water, it might either have a bottle cap or a twist cap. Those actually are going to be a little too small. So like I said, smaller than your fist, I would throw those away, or maybe you can keep them for an art project. There's lots of ways to be creative. Same thing with the wine, that'll have like a cork in it, and or a twisty, but most will have a cork. And that we don't take corks. They're too small, and it's not a material that we take. So corks, like I said, you can either toss them in the trash or save them for an art project, be creative, all that lovely stuff. Next, we have cartons. Cartons are a pretty easy category. They're basically paper. And for these, you just want to remove as much plastic as you can with your hand. Now, why am I specifying with your hand? So I want you to picture the orange juice. There's going to, especially maybe like Minute Maid, there's going to be a little spout with a twisty cap on it. And the spout, if you can take off just the twisty cap, leave the spout alone. The companies that receive this product from Rumpke, they don't mind that little bit of plastic is in there. And also too, I don't want anybody to accidentally slip with a kitchen knife or a pair of scissors and end up in urgent care. So it really isn't worth the time because we don't mind if it's on there. And then two, I really don't want anybody to get hurt. So never take a knife or scissors to anything. Whatever you can take off with your hand, that's fair. Next we have paper. Paper is most of what we receive from homes and businesses. It is 60% of the recycling stream. And even then, it's cardboard that makes up the majority of that. Recycling is really a good like kind of barometer of the economy, and we can really see trends in what people are buying based on what's coming into the recycling center. So we definitely have noticed that a lot less like newspapers or school paper, office paper, we're getting a lot less of that and a lot more brown cardboard. So it is kind of interesting. Now on this one, you'll notice there's stuff in there like the junk mail. Junk mail, you do not have to shred if you're comfortable with that. And honestly, if it doesn't have your social security number on it or a full account number on it, it really is safe to just put into your recycling. So just toss those in with the windows and the little fake, cards and stuff, just straight in there. It's not worth the time to open it. Just put it in there. The glossy ad paper, or even if you think of like a magazine that has that kind of shiny paper, that is fine. You can put that in there just as it is. There's also like paperboard things, like the TV dinners there or the cereal box. Those are great. Now, there are some newer things that tend to throw people off on here. You're probably wondering when I'm going to get to this, the pizza box. So pizza boxes are fairly new, a couple years, but they weren't always on the list. And as long as the pizza box is, uh, I would say, fairly clean as well, then you can recycle it. Don't worry about ripping the lid off or anything like that. Now, where's the line for what we can what's too soiled? I would say if there is just a little bit of grease, a little bit of crumbs, it's okay. Now, if you pick up the box and it is so sopping wet with grease that it falls apart, then I would not put it in there. But otherwise, go ahead and recycle that. The coffee cup in the middle there, might have missed him. That is okay to put in there as well. Even the cups with the kind of waterproof lining on the inside, that is fine. Our paper processor, they have a way to extract that off of the paper, and then they can still use the paper on the outside. So pretty much paper is the easiest because it has the least amount of rules. If you are in doubt with paper specifically, I would go ahead and throw it in there because most likely we're going to be able to take it. Now, this slide is very important. If anything you remember from this entire presentation, please remember this slide. So this is what I like to call the big nose. Now, I told you I was going to say lithium ion battery again. Yes, the iPad and the iPhone, that is what is representing lithium ion batteries. They catch on fire and we get a lot of fires and we don't want to hurt anybody. So please don't put those in there. Now, the garden hose, the videotape, and the hanger, those are representing tanglers. Tanglers are anything that's long and stringy and it wraps around our equipment. We have a lot of rotating parts in our sorting equipment. And when something like that comes through, it will wrap around it. Kind of like if you get something like caught in like a, like a fan or, your ceiling fan or something, it just wraps up. So now that doesn't sound like that big of an issue, but it can actually break our machines. And if we get enough plastic wrapped around the machines can't do their job. So we really have to keep those from coming in. Some other notable tanglers that aren't on this list, we have like textiles, so like bed sheets or like clothes, those tangle really bad, especially bed sheets. We also get steel chains, dog leashes, power cords, anything like that. Try not to put those in, even if you like cut them. We don't take that material, so try not to put those in there. Now, let's move on to the propane tank. You wouldn't think I would really need to specify the propane tank, but I do actually. The propane tanks, we get a lot of them every day at the recycling center, and we even get tanks with fuel inside of them, so they're dangerous. Now, of course, absolutely, if they're dangerous, anything's dangerous, do not put it in there. But let's say that you have a propane tank that maybe had a leak or a hole and it's safe, there's no fuel in it. We still don't want that tank because that's a rigid steel. It's not on our acceptable items list. So try not to put those in there for us. The last thing on the big nose list, I did save for last because it is our #1 contaminant by far. That is the plastic bags. So it is a lot of our shopping bags, like the ones in the picture, but also like trash bags. We're not supposed to be bagging our recyclables. We want them to be loose so our machines can separate them. But the bags, there are a lot of these bags in the world, not just causing problems for me at Rumpke. They're causing a lot of problems everywhere. And I would say if you're somebody, you're looking to make that first step into being, doing your part, being more sustainable, start with not using plastic bags. That is the best thing you can do to just get that baby step out the door. they are everywhere. They float around. They're like little kites. They get caught in trees. Animals eat them. They get in the ocean. They get caught in my machines and they contaminate the paper. So try not to use plastic bags. If you aren't able to give them up completely, maybe just try to use less, or do your best to maybe carry a few things with your hands. Whatever you can do, every little bit helps. So hopefully that makes sense. All right. Well, my last thing I'm going to talk about today is something new happening in Rumpke. So at the beginning, I mentioned that we are building a new facility. So our facility is actually a mile and a half down the road from our current facility. It's kind of near the short north, off of Fifth Avenue. And the new one is just a mile and a half down the road, a little further east. It's off of Joyce Avenue, if anybody knows where that is. And this building is actually the largest private investment by the Rumpke family to date. They are contributing over $100 million in private funds to build this facility. Now, Rumpke plans to reconstruct the area with new buildings, including the state-of-the-art 223,000 square foot recycling facility. The technologically advanced system will allow Rumpke to increase the amount of recyclable material it processes annually from 150,000 tons to 250,000 tons from nearly 50 counties in Ohio. So that's almost, we have 40 or 88 counties in Ohio. And so 50 is more than half. So that's pretty cool that more than half of Ohio is going to be processed right here in our backyard. This is a picture that our architect made for us before we actually started building. And it just kind of gives you an idea of what the building looks like. And this is a demographic or an example of what the machinery is going to look like. The building is obviously a lot bigger, and it is a lot more organized. And we cannot wait to have you guys in for a visit. This is an updated photo. This is actually from November. And so we have it pretty much all the way up. And actually you can see there are kind of like blue and yellow things sitting in the parking lot on the floor or on the concrete there. That's actually the machines being ready to go in there. So that was in November. And as of now, I think I want to say at least 90 some percent complete. So we are very excited. Hopefully in the next couple of months, we'll be able to start turning those machines on. And then hopefully by the fall, we can start getting some people in to see it. So I'll be looking for everybody's reservation. And again, my name is Sandra with Rumpke. And I really appreciate you guys coming in for my presentation.